Okay, welcome to the event show live. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Thank you for those who are joining us for the first time, and thanks to those that have been joining the show throughout the last couple of months. The purpose of the show is to give a voice to our industry and hear from influential leaders and share our thoughts across our community. And today's show is very much focused on some of the advocates, some of the people that are leading the way with curating resources and networks to support us all in our work. So really pleased to have the conversation that we're going to have today with our panel. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks for investing your time into the show and supporting the show. My name's Andrew O'Loughlin. I've been in the industry for many years, worked across the various sectors and large events and small events, and currently helping people design and redesign their events, and also helping event people navigate their way through our industry. So one of the initiatives that we've had in place for a while is a podcast, The Event Show, which has been speaking to a lot of talented people in our industry. And then obviously, as many of you have seen, we've been running these shows to, I guess, bring some of the issues that we're facing to the fore, but also very much looking ahead in terms of what the opportunities are. So as I do ask each week, I'd love it if people do drop their questions in the Q&A box. It's really good for us to understand what's on your mind. Feel free to chat in the chat box as well, and we can obviously address those questions and hear your thoughts. So thanks again for joining us. I'll introduce our panel. First up, Chris Heverin. Chris is the MD at Spartan Race, has a long distinguished career in our industry and is also heading up one of the industry advocacy groups. So welcome, Chris.
Thanks, Andrew. Great to be on board, mate.
Great to have you here. And also someone who's been leading the way in the industry and bringing us together across many years is Dior Satori, with her work with the Event Network Victoria. Welcome, Dior.
Thanks, Andrew. Nice to be here.
Great to have you on the show. We're just waiting for our last panelist, Lachlan McLean, to join us. He has sent a message saying he's logging in, so I'm sure we'll see his face pop up soon. I'll jump to you first, Chris. I'm really keen to obviously hear from you in terms of what's involved in your role at Spartan, and a little bit about your history in the industry as a bit of context before we jump into some of the work and some of the things you're leading the way on now. So welcome,
Sure.
Chris.
Sure, Andrew. Yeah, well, I've been in the industry for a long time. I started in the sports industry in the AFL. I worked at Carlton Football Club for a number of years, and decided, as a lot of us do, that I could go out on my own and do a better job. Or I wasn't sure what I was thinking really when I look back, but anyway, I went out and went out on my own and spent a lot of time working in professional sport, and committed. I was desperate to get into the Sydney Olympics, being a Melburnian. It was pretty tough, and so I partnered with or bought into an existing business in Sydney, and we delivered some fantastic projects across the Olympics, including with Visy Industries and Basketball Australia, Athletics Australia, which was fabulous. In the 2000s, we sort of moved into looking at working some international events and international clients, and did all that stuff. And we set up in partnership with Jason Dover in Perth. We set up Cape to Cape mountain bike event, which has become a bit of an iconic event in the industry, not just in Australia but globally. And we then set up Port to Port as a sister event in New South Wales. And over the journey, there's probably not a professional code or professional sport that we haven't consulted to or run events on behalf of. And then in sort of late 2016, I was approached by Spartan out of the US to see whether I would be interested in taking over the license here in Australia. So we've, as part of our broader business, we run Spartan as well, and Spartan's grown quite considerably. We started with 5 events, and prior to COVID, we were on track for 12 this year. So big growth over a couple of years, over a year period. Expanded into New Zealand as well, and it's we've got like 300,000 people involved in the Spartan community now. It's a big gig, and I've got a great team that are really engaged with a highly engaged community. People love Spartan and they love being involved.
Yeah, look, I think I'd love to hear a bit more. I'm sure our audience would love to hear a bit more about the Spartan world. I guess it's one of the more recent success stories of our industry, isn't it, in terms of the way that it's been established and as you say, is continuing to grow. I wrote a blog just this week actually about events becoming more than an event and becoming like a movement and a community. Can you give us a bit of an insight in terms of the thinking that's going on within Spartan? So I suppose Joe DeSena, a very inspirational founder, but there's obviously a lot of work being done across the world to scale that community.
Yeah, I think it's one of the interesting things when people often ask me what's the difference with Spartan compared to other events, and there is this incredible community engagement, and people are empowered, and they have a say, and they want to have a say, and they're very involved, and there's lots of sort of cliches out there about things like getting people off the couch and changing lives. But we really do that. And what happens is that Spartan is very much, it's like 78% of people who do a Spartan race do it in a group. They do it in a team. They do it with their friends. They do it with their work colleagues. They do it with their gym. And as a result, there's a real network. And the other thing that happens with Spartan is that you need to train and prepare to do a Spartan race. A lot of people sort of think that, it's the toughest thing going around or whatever. But yeah, if you want to do a Spartan Beast or a Spartan Ultra, you've really got to work and you've got to be out there. But a majority of our athletes are people who are wanting to have a challenge. They come in and they do the 5K race. It's 20 obstacles. It's still a pretty solid workout. But that gets them into the system, then they start to meet other people. And interestingly, last year at our event at Bright, we had a panel with our elite racers, and we asked them the question about, how did you get involved? And they all got involved in the same way. They came along with a friend and said, come and have a go. They came for a bit of fun, and they came and did the 5K race. And interestingly, each of them had the same story in that they got called into timing, because they did the 5K race in an open wave with a group of other people, and they ran a time that was elite. It's like timing called them in and said, what's going on here? Have you cheated, or have you cut the course, or what have you done? And they said, no. And then you find out that, some of the guy, one of the guys was a 1500 metre, New South Wales champion and things like that. So, and as a result, then you've got a pathway, and so these guys are now starting out. And I was just on the phone this morning to Liam McKenzie, who's the Asia Pacific champion. And Liam's one of those guys. He started out, came with a mate, amazing athlete, has gone through an Asia Pacific Championship. And here we go onto the Spartan Worlds, where there's 10,000 athletes from all over the world competing, in an incredible event. He'll be doing that hopefully later in the year, or if not next year for sure. So it's a really interesting vibe as being part of the whole community.
Yeah, look, I think it's a really interesting case study or example, isn't it, that we can learn from with other events in terms of that pathway into the event and how that occurs. And as you say, that's often, most often through other people, bringing people into that event and into that community, and that sort of life cycle, if you like, with the event sort of emerges from there. But I think, as we know, sports changed and the way people consume their physical activity is changing all the time, and entertainment's changing and the way people consume that. So I think these newer initiatives are ones that we can learn a lot from, I think, and adopt some of the same strategies.
Yeah, I definitely. And I think also that, when you've got a global community, there's that's a real benefit for the sport, because we do get a lot of cross-pollination. People train, and there's a big group that goes to Hawaii every year from Australia. A couple of years ago, we had 400 or 500 athletes went there as a group, got together themselves, formed their own group, organised their travel, and went up to Hawaii and competed in the event up there. And we have a lot of athletes come in from Asia. And look, in Australia, we're a welcoming society, and people love coming to the events here. It's easy to get around, so we're finding that that people coming from overseas is increasing, or it was increasing before March the 13th.
Yes.
But certainly, and also from an interstate point of view, something like 40% of on average, 40% of our registrations are from interstate. So people are travelling to the events, which is a really high number.
Mm. Yeah, you're touching on a few things there, which I'd really love to explore a bit more in terms of the impact, the influence that events like Spartan, mass participation events and events in general have in both that personal individual level, I suppose, in changing people's lifestyles and physical activity and physical, mental health, etc., but also those economic impacts of people travelling to regional areas and across Australia and internationally. And there's quite a few layers of value, isn't there, to events that sometimes we're good at articulating and sharing with our stakeholders and across our industry and outside our industry. But I think we're also learning of other currencies, other value points that we can be sharing with partners and stakeholders and across the industry, isn't there?
Absolutely. I think the destination, something that we've done with Spartan and had done previously with our mountain biking business, is really highlight the destinations and have a really strong partnership with the local communities and really engage. And like a couple of interesting examples are our event at Bright, which is held it was in November last year. We're not sure if we're hoping it'll go ahead this year, but we'll see. But the economic impact there is something around $5 million for that week, and into that community. You can't get a bed for a radius of sort of like 40 k's around Bright. The place is sold out, and so as a result of that community, and then you think about all the digital engagement happening as a result of that, and the people that are coming along with the athletes, and then you sort of take a step further. One of the things, we have a full-time fitness industry manager, and her role is to work very closely with the gyms and the personal trainers, because once again, what you find, the story, we've all been guilty of it: sign up, pay your membership, go for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and then you keep paying, but you don't go. So what we've been trying to do is get the message out there to say, use a Spartan race as the goal for your group, for your athlete, for your gym member, and give them a target, and they can all do it at their own level. We have a lot of people who walk our races, who walk the 5K race and walk the 10K race. They'll run the first part, they'll walk it but the thing is, they come back and they've had an amazing experience, and we get them again, because 90% of people who do one race do two, which is a good stat for us. So we know that we're going to get them back. We just got to make sure we keep working at it to make sure they don't forget us and they do come back. So.
Yeah, well, that's a really key measure of success, isn't it? That if you've got that retention rate and that people are enjoying the experience and coming back for more, that's a fairly strong case for the proof of the concept, if you like, or proof of what you're doing. Yeah, I think some interesting examples about partnering. Well, I think as an event industry, we'll talk a bit about some of the advocacy work that you're doing shortly, but I think partnering with the fitness industry, I think that's an interesting example of giving them a pathway to retain their members and to bring them in and give them something next. And also, as you mentioned, partnering with regional tourism bodies, and I think that's a way to achieve more, isn't it, by fulfilling mutual needs and benefits.
Yeah, well, it was interesting. Our final event before COVID was a week before COVID, was at Oberon in Western New South Wales, and we took a little bit of a punt to go to Oberon. It's a good 3 hours from Sydney, and you've got to get through the Blue Mountains, and there'd been the fires, and there'd been everything. But we got a good we got a good turn up, which we were pleased about. But the amazing thing with it was that Oberon, or that region of New South Wales, had been smashed by fires, had been smashed by drought, and the Spartan people, they all love wearing their shirts and their medals and walking around the streets and staying overnight and things like that. And they were the local community were amazing. They treated everybody like rock stars. They were so thankful. Thanks for coming. And this is just to the average racer, and these people are going, wow, this is amazing. Like the way we've been treated, and you forget that it means a lot. You go into that local cafe and it's full. The pub on the Saturday night, you couldn't get a table, which is the first time for 12 months. All that sort of thing. They're all the flow-on effects that. And from our point of view, in putting the events on, we want to create that experience. So you have a great experience at the race and at the event, and the first experience is, you arrive at the car park. Well, our car park manager has a job to do, which are two jobs. One is to run the car park. The second one is he must make everybody smile, every person that he greets. He's got to tell them a joke. He's got to make a stupid comment. He's got to get them smiling when they come into a Spartan race, and he loves it. He soaks it up and does it probably a bit too much, but it's all about that experience. You come through, you've had a great day, you've come in the night before, you've engaged with the local community, you've had a great time, you've stayed that night, everyone's there together enjoying the weekend. That's the sort of events that we try to create. So it's very holistic. And people walk away with a smile on their face, which is what you want.
Absolutely. No, that's right. As you say, it's all about the experience, and if people are walking away after having those moments with different characters and walking away with a smile on their face, it's a great measure of success, isn't it? I think, Chris, it'd be good to hear a bit about the work you're doing sort of more broadly around the Mass Participation Alliance and how that's kicking into action and leading the way for our industry.
Okay, great. Thanks for the opportunity, Andrew. So about 7 weeks ago, there was a group of us started chatting, looking at the media and particularly the media and the government dialogue in terms of sport and community sport and what's happening. And I think we take a good hard look at it, and you'll see that mass participation events have basically been ignored. We've been talking about professional sport and NRL back and AFL back, broadcast properties, spectator-based properties. There's been a lot of talk about community sport and kids getting back, but the reality is that there's been 8,500 mass participation events have been shut down across the country because of COVID. There's been 11,000 people jobs are at risk. You've got 3.5 million Aussies every year come out and they participate. They train for Spartan, a city to surf, a triathlon, a swimming race, a bike race, whatever, and they're participating. They're getting off the couch. They're looking after their health and wellness. They're leading an active lifestyle, and that impact on all of those sort of stats comes out. There's been a $1.1 billion impact on the economy from the mass participation industry. So what we did is we formed a group called the Australian Participation Sporting Events Alliance, and that group started with all pro bono, all volunteers, and industry leaders that got together and said we need to do something and we need to get out there. And so what we did is we formed, we got legal advice, and we created a memorandum of understanding so that we're legally bound and it's legally binding. And we then created a website, and a lot of people would have seen this. We reached out and said to the industry to join. And one of the things I would say is we've got 250 members at the moment. We're looking to double that in the next week to 2 weeks. So there's a lot of people that haven't signed up. The website is ampsea.com.au. And whether you're a supplier, whether you're an event organizer, whether you're part of a registration platform, whatever, you're connected. There's a huge number of people in our industry, and it's really important that you get. We want to grow those numbers. So because our goals are, or what we've started doing this week is that we've now gone to government officially with letters across the Australian government and every state and territory. We've started a media rollout as of yesterday, and this show is one of those forums that we're promoting the industry, and we've had some coverage, and we will get greater coverage over the weekend and into next week. But we've got to create a demand as an industry to let people know, hey guys, you know, we were the first out. March the 13th, we all got shut down. We're going to be the last back. No one's talking about us, so we need to make some noise. We need to make the government aware that, you know, we need stimulus. We need you to support our industry. We've got none, you know, there's no revenue. We're not, Spartan is 99% down. 99% down for 3 months. It's 3 months tomorrow. So you look at that and you say, what do we, you know, we need support, guys. And look at those numbers, 1.1 billion. We need a roadmap. And Andrew, you mentioned earlier about the regional communities. When you look at those 8,500 events, most of them are in regional communities. So that rollout into that economic impact and that effect into those regional communities, plus into charity. Like there's something like $75 million worth of fundraising that's done through our industry that's gone. So that's the charity sector that's now been hit. So we're very passionate about it. We've got some great people involved. You know, all the details are on the website, but I would urge everybody in the industry, get involved. You know, you sort of, I know we're all under pressure, but make the time, get involved, do what you can, spread the word, get your friends, you know, suppliers, get it out there, weigh the numbers, and we will get support. There's no doubt about that.
I think it's brilliant, Chris, what you're doing, and I'd certainly endorse that or ask that people do jump on and support the work that you're all doing. I think, you know, some of the good things which are coming out of this phase are these. It's been a catalyst for different things to occur, and I think as a part of the industry, the mass participation world has always been a very passionate group of people working in that industry, but has sometimes failed to be able to provide data on the scale and the influence that it's having. And, you know, some of those numbers you're talking about, we've known, but haven't been able to articulate to government or other stakeholders. And as you say, it's a big industry having an enormous impact in different ways and different levels. So I think it's great that you'll be able to tell that story now and have a seat at the table. So it's congratulate for those that are involved.
Thanks, Andrew. And I think with the executive that's involved is that we've got broad representation from the industry. So it's not just a group of event operators who are there because they're out of pocket. We've got, you know, insurers, we've got registration platforms, we've got HR and workforce providers, we've got government representatives, we've got Nathan Rees, former Premier of New South Wales, has donated his time to assist on the government advisory side of things. It's really, really important that we have you know, that we get that buy-in from the industry. And what the plan is as well is this is not a COVID scenario. Our steps are that we're moving into forming a peak body, and Nathan is leading that, and people like Dave Beach from Ironman are heavily involved in that side of things as well. So we will be forming a peak body. It will be open to the whole industry, and it will be about not just advocacy and going forward, but it'll also be about working together to provide integrated solutions, resourcing, and our industry doesn't have a voice. You know, we're all operating in silos. Well, we have got the opportunity now to have a voice and to have a group that you know, can lead the way and really help our industry. Because, as you said there, and Holo, when you look at those numbers, they're staggering. And at the moment, you know, with the call out to the government again, is that, you know, there is no pathway from in terms of any of the governments. So we need, you know, government to be proactive now and get involved and engage with us, and you know, and really help this industry, because it'll help. There are so many ways that it helps the community, especially wellness, health, mental health. We all know that, you know, fit and healthy, and people are out there. It's good, you know, and we need to drive that message as far as wide as we can.
I think it's great to hear that there's a short-term purpose, but a longer-term initiative in place as well. And I think I worked in mass participation around an agency for 10 years, working on some of the bigger events, and certainly understood that mass participation event is the sum of many parts, isn't it, in terms of suppliers, venues, stakeholders, volunteers, staff. And I think if there was ever events that needed to be well networked and to come together, especially when those events do pop up once a year and you need to tap back into those networks, or you're popping up in different locations. I think, if there's ever an industry which would benefit from really strong networks and relationships, perhaps in a more formalised way as well, I think then this could be a great tipping point and a way forward for that world.
Yeah, well, I think a good example of that is Craig Sheridan, who's one of the leading risk consultants in the country, has been working on a risk mitigation protocol for the industry. So that will be up on our website. I think it might be up there now, but that's certainly a platform where event operators, if you're you're operating a small trail run, in the back of Queensland, you can go in there, take that as a guide, go onto the website. You still have to modify that for your run, of course, but it gives you that 80 to 90% head start on all of the things that you need to cover. And as an industry, we can set those standards and templates, so we can actually, when we're going back into getting our events back up and running, we're able to take these types of resources to the government and to the local government and with our permitting, and that we're being proactive ahead of the game. So we're driving the best practice model, as well as obviously the government side of things and the roadmap and all that. But there's a whole lot of layers. You're absolutely right, and we're very hopeful that that AMSI can provide that, fill that gap, and really help the whole industry going forward.
That's brilliant, and certainly encourage anyone who hasn't signed up already to do so. I think a lot of people in the industry, their pathway in the industry has been via mass participation events. I think it's often been an entry point to get involved with the industry and perhaps stay in that space or move into other parts of the industry. So I'm sure everyone's keen to support it and see it grow. So I'll come back to you for some more thoughts soon, Chris, but I just want to bring Dior into the chat today, and I suppose speaking about networks and coming together as an industry. Dior, you've done some great work over the years and been very proactive prior to the current situation that we're in with Event Network Victoria and some of the initiatives around that. So could you tell us a little bit about, I guess, some of the work that you have been doing and the purpose to it and the outcomes you've been seeking?
Yeah, of course. So it's actually a bit of a funny story, the way the network started. I was in a gig, and my background is event project management in a freelance perspective. And I just, at the time, I had a million things coming at me, and I just thought there's got to be a better way of working in this industry. Being contacted by people about jobs, but from a third party, and trying to access resources on site when they're not available to you. Spending hours searching the internet looking for that perfect component for the event that you just can't find. And I sat down one night and I just thought, really, there's got to be a better understanding and a better way of bringing everybody together. So funnily enough, I just started a Facebook group, and that Facebook group in the last 5 years has just grown, and it continues to grow every day. And we've got over 5,500 members, and it's a really active community, which is wonderful. And everything from jobs that are not advertised, you're going direct to the source. So you've got employer direct to a dedicated audience, which is absolutely wonderful. So they're getting a better resources in positions because they've already got the skill set. You're bypassing that. And one of the great things about it too is you jump on the Facebook group and you're like, hi guys, I need a marquee and I need it literally within 10 minutes. And bang, there's 20 resources available to help you out. And it's just become this beautiful community that honestly really runs itself. In the beginning, I did a lot of moderation, but now everybody kind of has their voice and their opinions, and you're getting live recommendations, which is really wonderful. So they're tried and tested, be it everything from advice about insurances from a freelancer to, like I said, suppliers to education. We've got quite a few younger members coming through the dedication educational institutions, just looking for advice, or they're great that they put themselves forward and they say, look, I want to volunteer. And the next minute you've got 30 people saying, look, we've got this event coming up. We'd love to take you on board and we'd love to teach you more. So it's just become this beautiful platform for people to engage and collaborate and connect, which is really much more than I ever thought it would be. And from that, I've taken the directive of the members to start a few initiatives. So we do have face-to-face events, networking events. Some of them have an educational component to them as well. Really great turnouts. And the fantastic part about the network is you've got people from every facet of the industry. You've got your mass participation, you've got your arts, you've got your culture, sporting, conferences, festivals. So you really get this beautiful amalgamation of people with really different backgrounds and different input with different advice levels, which I think is fantastic. So on from that, we created the Little Black Book, which is a supplier guide for, there's a lot of boutique suppliers out there that just don't have the funds to constantly advertise and market in this industry. So that's given them a resource to essentially get their voice known and level up and be successful as well. So we've got that initiative. And then recently, obviously due to COVID, we haven't been able to do our face-to-face networking. So we started online coffees, so virtual coffees, and that's been really successful. It's allowed our members to interact and network whilst we're currently in this position that we weren't able to have those conversations face to face. So the members sign up and they let us know what their background is and what they're looking for in order to network with other people, and then we match them and they go about it in their own time to have coffee. And it really is great. Like, I try and test these things, and I had a wonderful coffee earlier this week with a fantastic young man who has really thrown himself into this industry, and he will go far because he just has that drive to succeed. So it's really quite inspiring as well. And as much as I put in, the members give so much back. So it's just a beautiful resource for the industry.
It's brilliant. I really congratulate you for the work you've done, Dior, and the initiative you've taken over the years. And I think it's a great reminder that we want to be more connected, and there's some great passion in the industry, isn't there? That these forums enable that to be shared and discussed. And I think it's really great what you've done, and the fact that people are supporting that and jumping into that and using it. What do you see as, I suppose, the developments or the support that you'd like to see more of in the industry now and in the future? Are there things which people have been really drawn to with what you've been doing and would like to see more of, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a really big platform available for educational resources. It's something that especially COVID has brought awareness to, because we've had this time where we've been isolated. A lot of people have had a moment to step back, to reset, and take that time out that we actually don't really get in the industry, because we never stop. We go from event to event to event, and it's forced us to stop without actually feeling guilty. And in that, there's been some incredible ideas and side hustles and initiatives that have come up. But I think one of the things that people are really looking for is the ability to upskill. We do have some platforms available to us in the industry, but let's say I wanted to go on and specialize in event sustainability. Where do we start? Who are those people that we talk to? There's not a kind of one platform that we can go in the event space and find out how to upskill ourselves in sustainability. Or, like, my technical knowledge is good, but it could be better. I'd like to learn more about, say, webcasting. Where can I go in order to learn that? I really feel that there's a bit of a hole in that space that could be really picked up and taken, so that people can constantly upskill. Because yes, you do have your event management degrees and that type of thing, but once you've done that and you've been in the industry for quite some time, you've got that experience behind you, how do you go and learn more and upskill yourself essentially? I know there is on-the-job learning, but a lot of jobs these days want to see certification and degrees. So it's about finding the right thing and finding ones that are really actually beneficial, because you can go and do a lot of these certifications, but does it actually apply to the event space? I think we are very unique in what we do. Does it have an on-site application that we can actually benefit from?
Mm. I think that's a really good point, Dior, around making sure what you're doing is a good investment into the role that you want and in the event world. I think there's certainly no shortage of resources and online courses out in the world, and some brilliant ones. But it's about sort of translating that back into our world and our work, isn't it? And how you can use that and for value for yourself and your employers as well, isn't it? So I think there are some really good resources around in the event world, but it's also a matter of finding them, isn't it? And I think forums like yours are a good place to ask those questions of, is this valuable? Is this useful? Is this something I should be doing? So I think it's really good. How can people support what you're doing and gain from it, I guess? How they best get involved on the different levels? And you mentioned a few initiatives there, and I think it's really cool how you've pivoted and set new things up in the current environment, so that it's evolving and being of value to people. But for those that aren't involved or are aware of the forums, how can they be best getting the most out of them?
Yeah, of course. So the Event Network is essentially a Facebook group. So it's Event Network Victoria. We are looking at the moment of moving that to a website base. Essentially, you would know the feed on Facebook is constantly updating. And we do have these initiatives that if you are a new member, you may not be aware of because it sits so far down in the feed. So we actually are talking to the members at the moment, do they want a Facebook group? Because it's essentially, like I mentioned earlier, it's derived by the members and it's very dictated by the members. And it's funny, some people are like, no, the Facebook group suits perfectly. Other people are like, no, I'd like to see what's going on and kind of have a dedicated resource to go to. So we are looking at a website at the moment. But I just think, jump on the Facebook, have a look around. I don't think people realise how quickly it moves. The updates are very quick. So you find that you post something and then a day later, not even a day later, you can't even find it in the feed, which is quite wonderful. But I think it's just about, if you're unsure, just ask. I've been so taken aback by how open people are in order to help one another. It's something in this industry that I find quite heartwarming, that someone can ask a question like I mentioned earlier. You have a young up-and-comer wanting to volunteer, and then everybody kind of just spreads their wings and says, look, I'm happy to help you out. So I think it's just being a bit transparent and not being afraid to ask for help or comment and really be involved in those conversations. And the great thing I love about our face-to-face events, if I could put, and I know it sounds a bit silly, I'd love to be able to put a barometer on as such as to, not a barometer, but a level on as to the engagement at our networking events, because I find that a lot of people enter the space, and like I mentioned, you've got all of these backgrounds, they enter the space and they start networking, and by the end of the night, the amount of people that are collaborating on their next idea and the emails that I receive the next day is really quite fascinating. And it's not being afraid to put yourself forward and not being afraid to say, hey, I'm actually looking for a contact in this space. Are you able to help me? People are always willing to help out. And I just think that use it and abuse it. That's what the network's for, is make yourself available. It's for the members. It's run by them. Well, it's run by me, but it's run for the members. And essentially I take the lead of the members. So that's what the platform is. And get involved in those initiatives. Make yourself known, because if we don't know, we can't help.
Excellent. That's a really good point. I think, Dio, I think we hope people will support these forums, and I've been involved in sort of establishing forums and networks for people to gain from, but also they need to serve the purpose for the industry and for the people within the industry, don't they? So I think it's great that you're listening to what people want and then adapting and evolving it accordingly. So yeah, that's fantastic. I'll bring Lockie into the conversation now. Welcome to the show, Lachlan. I know you jumped on just after we did the intros, but really keen to hear what you're up to, and we've seen a lot of great initiatives from you. A lot of people know you from your days with Event Workforce Group, but these days in a new role, and also establishing curating, I guess, some great resources for us all to tap into with the event list. And or steal Dior's line of, there's got to be a better way of working, and I think that seems to be a theme that's coming through with a lot of the things that you're curating and putting out to the world. So welcome to the show, mate. Do you want to give us a bit of a rundown of what you are focused on at the moment and what's the purpose behind it all?
Yeah, thanks, Andy, mate. Apologies for jumping on. Classic millennial not working his tech out. But yeah, we've been connected for a while now, and I love what you're doing in the event space, and it's a big pleasure of mine to be on the show. Event List for me is a combination of two of my passions. The first passion being all things events, and the second being all things tech. And over the last couple of years, I've found that I have spent quite a lot of my time looking at all things tech and all things events. And through this process, I came across a notion, I guess, called No Code. And No Code is a movement that empowers people like myself who don't have a technical background or a coding background to turn ideas scribbled in the back of a notebook, and we all have those, and we all have those dreams, and to turn those into a reality. And Event List is one of those. So it started as a list of 100 resources, and I think it's up to about 160 or so now, primarily event specific. However, it has now branched to cover more general web apps that can or have been implemented to improve systems and processes while planning events or even within general business. And the more time I was spending on these apps, I really started to find some use cases for myself and decided that I wanted to share with the events community. And the best way to do this was via a list. And Event List has been built using Airtable, which is one of these web apps. And if I've spoken to you in the last couple of months, you would have heard me talk about it. I absolutely love it. It's pretty much a very customizable and more powerful Google Sheets and the things that you can do with it absolutely blow my mind, especially with the detail that we do need to go to when creating events. Your run sheets, your production schedules, your liaising with external stakeholders when you want to bring them in, and the time it has really saved has been amazing. And while creating Event List and diving deeper into these programs, the more often I've started to see a common theme or question that has been asked more and more by event professionals, and that is, what are the best tools, resources, apps that we can use or that have been used to manage an event or can be implemented within a specific functional area to help with planning? What is, or is there one project management tool that does everything? And before I do answer with my findings, Andy, I'd like to throw over to you. And if you are tuned in, it'd be great for you to also have a think or shoot a message through to Andy. I'm sure he won't mind. But Andy, what tools or resources have you used or do you currently use to deliver or plan an event?
I'd encourage people to drop their thoughts in the chat box. Be interested to see sort of what the consensus is. I mean, we've used a variety of tools, and I think as you're touching on there, I think it's really understanding, is there a tool which is really fit for purpose for the work that you're doing in your event or within your organisation? We've the agencies I've worked with have obviously used the Google suite of applications, and but certainly tried a lot of the other tech that's available. And I think the main thing we've always come back to, because this is a very potentially very long discussion, isn't it? It's about does the tech enable what we're trying to achieve and make our life easiest? And that's sort of the question we've come back to, rather than getting lost in the technology. There's some great tools, Slack, etc. Great ways of collaborating and working. I've tried many different tools. I'd be interested to know what people are using, but certainly keen to hear your insights from the journey you've been on recently.
Yeah, and mate, look, what I've found, generally speaking, we are all trying to achieve that common goal. But there is a common theme, and it is your email. It's your Microsoft suite for your documents. It's your Excel for your key milestones, your ops plans, your timings. Generally, a Dropbox, a G Drive, a OneDrive to share the data, and then a Google Sheets potentially to collaborate and streamline with external stakeholders. And this is my opinion, and I have no doubt these apps that we currently use are are needed within specific areas. However, I do feel we are entering a new evolution of doing work, built off integration and collaboration, and it has definitely been pushed on us by two major reasons. I think the first one, obviously, being COVID, which has had a massive impact on our industry, and has resulted in the second, which is teams, companies, agencies, events working from home. We've had to adapt quickly, and listening, I think, to the podcast last week, Blizz from TLA, Aiden Blizzard, basically he did mention Zoom, and I had my troubles this morning with Zoom, and quite frankly, we are over what we are using, and we do need that human touch, and I totally agree, especially working within the events industry. However, these new web apps are enabling companies and event professionals to be better, and my aim is to help educate how.
It's brilliant. Well, I think there's no doubt whatever tools we use, there's no doubt the ways of working are changing and can change and should change. And I think it's sharing our understanding of what is working for people in the different contexts, and making sure we're using those tools and making our work and our lives a bit easier. Are there other things on the event list which you've found have really sort of stood out as being, and these are not sponsored posts in the show, by the way, if anyone's wondering, that's really stood out as being great initiatives that we should be exploring?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Look, I think this change will come, and we've seen the shift of apps within other industries, and I do believe they're going to become more and more part of our day-to-day operations. They are empowering the next generation of event professionals to imagine new possibilities and to build some great ideas. Speaking for myself, they've empowered me to be on this show, and really helping me understand how we are going to bridge the gap and integrate this new tech that we are seeing, the VR, the AR, the blockchain, into our events. And then, with the ultimate end goal of spending less time on the things that bug us down and more on the exciting things that we do enjoy, which are delivering events. And yeah, absolutely. Airtable is, as I said, Event List is built off it. And I'm using it more and more just to do day-to-day tasks. Yesterday, we did an inventory stock list of all our assets with a bit of time down of the event that we have, and what we could do and what we could upload instantly was absolutely great. And once you have everything stored on a central database, the things that you can do and how you can integrate, there's another platform called Zapier, which is pretty much a simple API, which you can then, or a program where you can plug things in. So for example, if you have a workforce of team emailing you, they can then, it can be zapped together and be pushed straight onto an Airtable, which is already there. And the old process of constant emails coming in, recording, uploading to an Excel. I'm trying to look at how we can, as I said, spend less time on doing the stuff that bugs us down, and that is sitting behind a computer, and the more of delivering these great events. We love the alive aspect, and I think if people can jump onto those, they'll really see some use cases.
Mm. Yeah, there's some really cool ways of working, isn't there, that we can bring into our work, and I certainly appreciate your curiosity around the way that we can evolve the nature of our work and how we go about things, and focus on the things that are important and what we can achieve. So I really look forward to seeing where you go with it all, and of course expect people can reach out to you for advice on their journey and yours in terms of exploring new ways of working. They best to jump on the event list, and I know you've got a few other initiatives in the pipeline as well.
Yeah, mate. I'm in the process of building a website to connect and share these ideas. I think it's great to see that Dior's also doing the same thing. But yeah, at the moment, while that's being built, I'm trying to work out exactly how I position it. But the aim will be to have these Airtable templates as video tutorials. So what you can do is, as Dior said, you have a template, or I think maybe it was you, Andy. You have a template that it is already 90% complete, and then you just roll it out. But yeah, while that is being built, you can shoot me a message on LinkedIn, or I do. I have started a newsletter, and I'll give it a plug here, Andy. Sorry about that.
That's right.
Event Weekly, which is a weekly newsletter that I have set up. Just, I guess, having such a passion for this side of things, I want to sort of show what I am finding. So yeah, Event Weekly, and hopefully we can share it in the. But yeah, basically subscribe to that or shoot me a note. I'm always very keen to have a chat, and I'm still learning myself. And there's some very exciting aspects and concepts that we can look at and build together.
Brilliant. Yeah, we'll definitely share that. So I think it's I've subscribed, and I think it's a great example of curating and pulling together some of the great knowledge and information which is out in the world. There's no shortage of information, but I think what we need more of is people pulling that together and translating that and making sure it's of value to us. So I think you're doing a great job there. So we'll make sure we share that, encourage people to jump in and support that as well. So before I go back to the rest of the panel, like any thoughts or final thoughts or things that you really want to see? You've spoken quite passionately this morning about new ways of working. Anything in particular that you're looking forward to seeing emerging in the coming months and years ahead?
Mate, my final message would be learn, grow, build. Get out there and start creating. You now have these platforms, and you do have the time. We all know how busy we are in peak event season, and it's a great opportunity to really look at these and learn. And last week on the newsletter, I had a look at some more all-in-one events platforms, and there was one in particular called Hopin, which has raised 6 million or so, and it's empowering people to create. And as we shift into this new age of web apps, companies are going to look for new and innovative ways to engage with their customers. And if you understand how to do this, I do believe you'll have an instant advantage over applicants. So yeah, get together with some colleagues and build your dream event. Have a play on Airtable. You've such a great opportunity to use these new web apps and imagine new possibilities. And as I said before, I'm learning myself. So drop me a line and we can work together to see what we can do to shape the future of events and the way we collaborate.
Awesome. That's brilliant. Thanks, Locke. I think it's really exciting what you're doing and where we're all going. So thanks for sharing what you have been. And Dior, I'm really interested to know sort of what's the future priorities for you and your work, and any sort of final messages or advice to our audience today.
Well, the future, who would know? I shouldn't say that. I think the thing is with this industry, we all work to a deadline. We all work to a schedule. Like I mentioned earlier, we're all incredibly resilient, but we all have the ability to shift and transform because we've all got a contingency plan, because that's just essentially the way that we operate. So I think that coming out of this, I really feel that the creative
Oh, I've lost you, Dior.
Tech issues.
There we go. They do come up.
Can relate.
Good old technology. Can't be relied on. No, it's fine. Dior might come back. I'll go to you, Chris, in terms of your final thoughts and advice for us to take away and run with. Sure.
I think one of the biggest things for and Lockie, great to meet you, mate. And I think you really honed in on it really well. I mean, I think the reality is that COVID is changing everything, and to sort of put the head in the sand and say that life's just going to go back to normal, it's not. And so we all have our challenges with different people that we all work with. But I think the sooner everybody understands that there is a new norm and it is changing, and you've got to be positive and proactive about it. From our business point of view, our broader business, we're very much into diversification. one of the things that we've realised from COVID is that we've probably been a bit narrow, and previously for many years we had multiple verticals where you're constantly turning over business and revenue, and so we've been working very hard to sort of restructure a little bit, and I think if you don't do that and have a good look at yourself, it's it's been a really tough time, and I think one of the things that I've really enjoyed with the Alliance group, the AMC group, has been that working with other industry leaders and CEOs and so forth, we've been just seeing the drive and the passion and the commitment for the industry has been really good for me on a personal basis, and I've found that to be then able to drive that back through our business and back into my team, and I think we're very optimistic about where we're getting out the other side. We've got a rough 6 months, 12 months ahead of us. We all know that, but I think we take a positive outlook. Really go hard, and I think we'll all come out the other side. And be smart with what we're doing. I think that's a really big message, and be proactive.
Brilliant. I think that's a really great message for us to take away. So we're coming towards the end of our hour. I think we have lost Dior, unfortunately, but just really want to say thank you all for giving up your time to share your thoughts today and perspectives and the obvious passion for the industry and the initiatives you're putting in place. And I'm sure our audience will support those and jump on and get connected with those and contribute to those in the coming weeks and months. And I think it is an exciting time. We've seen in recent weeks some good things happening, and I'm sure more good things are emerging as well. So thank you all again for your time and the work that you're doing. Also, thank everyone for joining us today. We'll continue these shows in the coming weeks. We're really keen to make sure we're giving a voice to the industry and hearing from people who are doing great things like the people you've heard from today. So please do reach out if there's topics or people you'd like to hear from on the show. I've been very pleased with the support we've had. Everyone who have asked to come on the show has said yes, and it's been amazing to see the contributions from across our industry. So we'll continue to do that. If I can help you in your work, please just reach out, either for some of the things we've talked about today, if I can help you sort of steer you in the right direction, whether that's for your development or working around new ways of working, then please do so. On the website, there's previous podcasts and replays of these shows. And as I say, we've had some really great influential people sharing their ideas and insights in the past few weeks. So please do enjoy those. And we're running programs to support people one-on-one, in groups, or with wider teams and organisations. So please jump in and do let us know if we can help you. But thanks all again for tuning in. We hope to see you next time. And thanks again to Chris and Dior, who's back there with us, and Lachlan, thanks again. And we hope to see you again soon.
Pleasure.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you all. See you soon. Thanks.